Well, Joseph, let's talk about cricket. It's current at the moment, of course. The Jesse Ryder saga rolls on. 1 minute he had things to do, the next minute he's in the A-team. What do you make of the whole way this has been worked through?
Well, I think that the New Zealand coach, Michael Hesson, and the selector, Bruce Egger, were very staunch at the start and wouldn't have him in the team because he was bad for their team atmosphere and so on, and wasn't pulling in the right direction, not in the waka and all this. But then when their top order failed, which it did in the last one-day series against South Africa, I just feel Jesse became a lot more appealing, and I see he's in the New Zealand A team now, so I would have thought that was the first step back towards getting in that New Zealand team and perhaps with the World Cup.
And it is essential with our limited talent pool. Essentially we need, don't we? We need Ryder, we need McCullum, we need Williamson, we need Taylor, all to play.
Yes, I mean, that was the funny thing. We had a few wins over the last 6 or 9 months, and suddenly we became apparently a great team that didn't need Jesse, and I think that's rubbish. I mean, you want your best players. I think one of the skills of being a coach, an international coach, is being able to handle diverse personalities, and you have to get on the right wavelength with him and get him into the squad. You're better off having him than not.
Let's look at some of the individuals at the moment. Guptill's a mystery to us all. A few years ago, flaying attacks seems to be lost all confidence and almost ability.
Yeah, he spent all winter training with Martin Crowe actually, and I don't know, I wasn't there, but is it possible he's got a bit technically minded and his natural talent's not coming through at the moment?
What do you make of Corey Anderson? He makes a big splash, of course, struggling to follow that up a little bit after that world record-breaking effort last year.
Yeah, at the moment you'd say he's a one-innings wonder, really, in terms of international play, and he would need to support that with some decent batting. I hope that he's not written off as a person who comes in with 4 overs to go and wins you the game, and that's all that he's good for, because he's a good cricketer, and he needs to be given the chance to flower properly as a cricketer, not some end-of-the-innings basher.
If it was up to me, I would toy with the idea of maybe opening with Watling, who has a good record at T20 this year, with can bat sensibly as an opener, and with a balance for those swashbucklers at the other end. What do you say?
You're talking about the one-day cricket. Well, I think the ideal thing would be Ryder and McCullum opening, actually, because if one of them carried on, you'll win the game. So that's what I would do. I think Watling's a really good cricketer, I agree with you. I think he could bat anywhere. He's a proper batsman. But yeah, in an absolutely ideal scenario, I'd like Ryder and McCullum to be opening, followed by Williamson and Taylor.
I agree that I think Watling should be included, and because Ronke now has established himself as a keeper batsman, that gives him options as well. Now these are genuine bat too.
Yeah, he could easily bat at 6. He's a really good explosive batsman. He's another guy, if he's in for 15 overs, he'll turn the whole game around. So they have plenty of batting. Makes it tricky for Watling in a way if he doesn't open, whether he gets in that team, because he's not a bowling option, and quite a few of them, Corey Anderson, Neesham, are bowling options as well.
Because the talk is, of course, what do you do about the spinning now that Vittori's there? But I have to say, watching him field was a bit like watching your dad play in the backyard, wasn't it, when you were young? You felt a bit sorry for him.
Yeah, he's not a great fieldsman, but he'll give you honest endeavour, and he is the tightest bowler going around. So he would actually be my spinning option. Playing in over here in a World Cup, I would have thought you'd want sort of medium pace bowling anyhow. You wouldn't be trying to pack your team with spinners.
When it comes to New Zealand's chances in this World Cup, with our very best team, we must be a real chance. Anything less than that becomes a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, we think they're really good because we know them well. But I feel like what South Africa did to us in that one-day series recently is quite graphic. It's like there are other cricketers who are actually better by far. And while we think our cricketers are good, look, I'm just watching Pakistan destroying Australia in Test cricket at the moment. There are some really fine players around the world at the moment, and they're not all in New Zealand.
Well, it's a good segue to that series, because not only have Australia been beaten, they've been absolutely thrashed. You see that very rarely in their history. Is Pakistan just that good, or have they caught Australia also at a bit of a lull?
Well, the Australian batting was pitiful. Warner is a good player, can use his feet and play spin, and he's handy against pace, so he's good. And Smith batted quite well, but the rest of them really had very little to offer. Clark looked totally at sea against spin, which was amazing to me because he's always been good with his feet and good against spin. They are a shattered team at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if they can regroup quick enough to be a real factor over the next few months.
Yusuf, he's got this wonderful record now. He just plundered runs. How good is he in the context, or is he just in the environment where he will prosper?
Oh no, I think he's really good. He made 200s, 2 centuries in one match and a double century in the next. He's pretty handy. I mean, he's got a test average of 52, so we'd take that for sure. I mean, in New Zealand, if you've got a test average of 40, you're like Stephen Fleming, you're one of our best players. So you've got a test average of 52, you're a really world-class player.
Let's talk about that Yusuf record, a century in each innings. Glenn Turner, the last person to do that against Australia. Shows you how hard it is to do.
But that's true. I mean, which was a shock to me because Australia have played quite a few tests since 1973-4. On the other hand, 3 Pakistanis did it in one series. It's amazing. I mean, they just killed the Australian bowling. And that was the same Australian bowling that looked absolutely lethal against England last summer.
So where does that stand for us? Because we're now taking over, taking Pakistan on in the UAE. Our chances?
Yeah, it was interesting listening to the Pakistanis talking after the second test against Australia, talking about looking forward to New Zealand, and they wanted to move up another notch and really keep the momentum going so that they would be on top going into the World Cup. And I thought, that bodes well for New Zealand because the Pakistanis are now not only fine players, but they're extremely confident and wanting to go out and really inflict some pain on their opposition.
And what's good, they're up against another challenge is they never play at home now. In fact, I can't recall the last time a Pakistan series was played in Pakistan. Do you see that changing in the foreseeable?
I don't think I'd be rushing to go and play a test in Pakistan. So no, I mean, every week you read about another car bombing over there or another suicide bomber. So I can't see it changing too quickly.
How hard was that for the national team, though? I would think to overcome that, to have no crowd support, no local support at all, and still perform. Yeah,
and it is a place where the crowd support's fantastic. When you the crowd gets very involved, big crowds that get involved. So yeah, to be playing in front of a few hundred people away from home, and that's your, quotes, home game, is difficult. I don't see it changing, and I suppose there's almost a generation of Pakistani cricketers now who have grown up, and that's the norm.
The World Cup in New Zealand, do you feel an undercurrent of excitement building now, because we're into the beginning of that summer?
I do. I think it's more exciting than a World Cup 2020 tournament by far, Tom. I think a World Cup, cricket followers generally feel that there's a bit of structure, and a one-day game, 50 overs, takes time to unfold and to play out, so they enjoy that sort of cricket, and it's not quite so ad hoc. So I think there's a lot of expectation about the tournament, and I feel that the memories of the last one that was held in Australia and New Zealand, the one where Martin Crowe captained New Zealand and we played so well, I think that has fine memories for New Zealand, and they're hoping they can get something similar again.
And I think a reasonably even field, you probably put South Africa on the top, and you think that Australia aren't going to be awful forever, especially in the shortened form. Other than that, a lot of prospects. Yes,
you'd have to say Sri Lanka are good. You'd have to say there are 7 or 8 pretty even teams there. Teams are falling away and others are coming on, but there's 7 or 8 teams that could beat each other.
You mentioned Stephen Fleming before. I wanted to ask you about him. He's did a bit of commentary. I thought he was very informative. Where does he stand in your eyes in terms of the history of our game, in terms of his contribution? Is he one of the greats?
I think he was a great captain and a great slipfieldsman. I think he was a good batsman. Overall, you'd have to say it was a pretty disappointing batting career, though. For the ability he had to only make, 6 test centuries in a career that long was, I would have thought, underachieving.
He's carved himself out a nice post-cricket career, though, isn't he? As a coach and a commentator. Now I think he's an ambassador.
Oh, he's a smart guy, and he has a finger in a lot of pies, some behind the scenes that people don't even know about, actually. He has good connections within cricket, and he's made a real success of being a coach in the IPL, which has brought him a whole new lucrative strand.